As soon as I tell people I'm interviewing, I kind of like to name drop, but you're known as the mean one.
Super mean. You might say, God, you get quite the response. It's like, oh my God, you're talking to her.
How was it? You're a child actor. I know that for many people, especially for my man with the Goonies, who made a comeback and changed his career. How difficult is it to be a child actor and to live your life semi-normal?
Right? It is. And I started so young. I mean, it's funny, we talk about comebacks. I started working when I was 5, 6 years old, and I did a movie and some commercials. And then when I was 11, I wasn't working much. And my father's manager me even said, this might be it. You might not work again until you're an adult. And then I got Little House like 6 months later. So Little House was technically my comeback role. I already had a whole career. It's like my comeback was Little House, which is so crazy. So I'm on my 57th comeback, I think. It's a very weird thing. I mean, it's hard for adults to be famous and be on TV. So to start doing it as a child, it can be quite hard. It's a lot of work. I mean, we were super lucky because being on Little House on the Prairie, there were all these other kids. I mean, just the main cast alone, you've got Melissa Gilbert, Melissa Sue Anderson, Jonathan Gilbert, me. So you have this whole gang of kids, and then all the kids in the schoolroom. So we had people our age that we kind of band together and socialize with and hang out with and be supported by. So we weren't just like the lone kid with all grown-ups all the time. And we had a really supportive environment. I mean, Michael Landon did put the kids first, and it was always made sure that we did our schoolwork, that we got rest and recreation, that we followed the rules about hours. And it was a very good environment. Other child actors I've talked to who were kids at the time said, oh, no, we all wished we could get a Little House because everyone was treated better. So really, I was very, very lucky. But it can be very difficult, and I don't know. I mean, is my life truly normal? I don't know. I'm doing cast reunions with Little House. I'm doing my stand-up show, Confessions of a Prairie Bitch, and selling books and doing all these crazy things all over the world. And I spend 2 months of the year in France performing. Is this normal? I'm not sure.
No, sounds like a very history career. That's what it sounds like. We're going to go back in time. Throw out the anchor. How did you land the role, and how nervous were you?
Well, I don't remember. I don't remember being nervous. I was pretty calm. That was a pretty chill set. I got the role because we knew the guy was casting, and he was trying to find a kid who was right for this because I had to play Richard Egan, the famous old actor. Richard Egan was to be his daughter, and it was several months in not quite the Everglades, but on the St. Johns River in Florida, out in the middle of nowhere, with Richard Egan and Dina Merrill. And it was kind of like a cheesy, cheap version of the old movie Houseboat with Cary Grant and Sophia Loren. It was kind of like Houseboat, but a little bit low budget. And we knew the casting director, and I met with him, and he said, no, that's it. We want her. And so it was kind of a big break. He's like, it is the lead. The kid has the most part. And I was chosen to do it. And I liked it because I got to go to Orlando for a couple of months. Disney World had literally just opened. That is how long ago this was. And so we got a whole VIP trip to Disney World. I got to run around in the woods. I saw alligators. I saw manatees. I saw armadillos. So I thought it was great. I had a great time. And the funny thing is, you watch this, and I'm playing a very nice girl. I'm like so nice in this. And it's just like a year and a half later that I'm Nellie Oleson and playing the nastiest child in the world.
You mentioned that you travel around the world, and of course you go to all these cons and all these reunions.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Are you still astounded by how many people and how many generations have been touched by Little House on the Prairie?
I just heard from a fan who grew up watching the show in Pakistan. The other day, a guy from Pakistan. And then we did our thing in Simi Valley last year. We had a big event for 3 days. 18,000 people showed up. We had people from Peru. We had people from every country on earth. And this year we're doing it again. We have a thing called littlehousegoldcountry.com. It's a website. You can get tickets. We're doing a big event in California. And we're still 51 years later. And we still are selling tickets to these cast reunions. And thousands of people show up. It's absolutely bonkers. And it's just the show is streaming everywhere. It's in 140 countries. There's a channel on Roku where you can literally watch just Little House on the Prairie. Just Little House on the Prairie, nothing else for 24 hours a day.
Times have changed. Syndication has changed. Everything has changed and evolved. Do people still expect you to be mean or ask you to be mean to them?
I do get that. I do get a lot of people when I autograph my book who want me to sign it from one bitch to another. I'm like, really? That's what you want? And I'm like, oh, yeah. I'm like, okay. People do, and I still have people who come up and tell me they're still mad. They're still mad 50 years later. They hate me. I had a woman actually walk up to my table and just look at me and say, I forgive you, and walk out. And people really took Little House on the Prairie on a really emotional, visceral level. So it's very interesting to see the reactions even all these years later. And we're in our seventh generation. We're still getting new people. We have these young people come. We're like, how are you into this? They're like, oh, I watch it streaming. I watch it on Amazon. I watch it on Roku. I watch it. They're into it now, and these people are 19 and 20 years old.
Mm. Okay, so you were on two. You were on two other shows. Okay, The Love Boat and Fantasy Island, two big hits. Which one did you like better?
Love Boat, absolutely. It's so funny because I have a podcast. I have two podcasts. I have the Alison Arngrim show, and then I have the 50th Little House on the Prairie official podcast with Dean Butler. But I literally just interviewed Jill Whalen from Love Boat last night. So it was like Old Home Week. I love being on Love Boat. They were so nice, and it was such a fun set. Fantasy Island was a little more difficult. I played a hooker on Fantasy Island, and Hervé Villachez was kind of like a one-man walking sexual harassment lawsuit, and it was kind of weird. Also, it was weird because normally Fantasy Island was kind of, there'd be lighthearted episodes and there was romance, but it was a weird episode where Eve Plum, who is Jan Brady, plays my mother, and we're the same age. Jan Brady goes to Fantasy Island, and she's pregnant, but she's not going to live to see her child grow. And they take her into the future to see her daughter grow up, but her daughter's run away, and she's become a prostitute. It's all horrible. And I'm like, how in this show we have this horrible story, this poor woman is terminally ill, and then suddenly it's a story about, trafficking. And I'm like, this is not a happy story. Why are we doing this? And so it was a little rough. I had to wear a swimsuit that was 2 sizes too small. It was kind of brutal. But I did it. I survived, and that's why I'm so happy to do Love Boat, which was much more pleasant. 2010,
flash forward, authored an autobiography titled "Confessions of a Prairie Bitch: How I Survived." Nellie Oleson, and learned to love being hated. How did this book come about, and what was who put the bug in your ear?
Well, I had been talking about it for years, and people had said, you've got to write a book with your crazy life. You have got to write a book. This is so bonkers. And I said, well, I should, but I really want to, do it right. Well, I started doing this one-woman show, and I'd been doing stand-up since I was 15. But I started doing the one-woman show, Confessions, where I tell all true stories, got a question-answer segment. And a literary agent in New York City came to see my show. And, in fact, it's funny because it was at the Cutting Room, and I'm actually going back to the Cutting Room on May 11th. I'm going to be in New York at the Cutting Room on May 11th, and this is where my literary agent came to see me, and he calls me up and he says, is there a book to go with this show? And I said, I guess there could be. And I said, no, I have written some chapters. He said, do you have 4? I go, I think so. Next thing I know, I'm meeting with publishers. I mean, we had a bidding war. It was crazy. And we named it Same as Show. So the book came after the show, which is weird. I was doing the show first. And I decided to throw in absolutely everything and the kitchen sink, and it has been such a hit. It made the New York Times bestseller list, and I just got numbers recently on paperback sales and audiobook sales, and people are still buying that book. They still love it. They write to me all the time about how much they enjoy it. I'm just so pleased.
Maybe they enjoy it because of how you dealt with your process, right? We all have a process and a journey in our life, and you've handled it so well with so much class. What advice would you have out there to, anyone that is struggling with similar situations?
Right, because I was abused as a child. I dealt with child abuse. I dealt with sexual abuse. I was bullied in school. You name it. As I said, I had a midlife crisis at 11. Was I going to work again? And the Little House was the comeback. It's craziness, all of this stuff. And anyway, if you're dealing with any kind of trauma, if whatever the trauma is, people do get post-traumatic stress disorder from trauma, and you do have to, it's not just in your mind, it is also, there's physical effects from this. So it's not just you. There really are physical effects in your body and your brain, but you're not doomed. You can get help. Talk to someone. If you can't afford a therapist, there's various free services. I don't know if you need to go to your church or temple, whatever. Find someone. There are free groups. There's 12-step groups for people who've been abused. There are stuff out there. Talk to someone. Don't just try to do it by yourself. Do not try to do this by yourself. Get help. Talk to people who know what's going on. There's so much written about it now. So many people talk more about abuse and about trauma nowadays. Thank heavens. There's books that you can read. Absolutely. You have to keep going. I think what kept me going as a very, very young girl was I kept thinking there's something better than this. Something better than this down the road. And I've always felt like I have to stick around to see how the movie ends. This movie is not over. When I was talking to Jill Whalen from Love Boat last night, her big thing was yet. We were laughing, and I said, well, from La Casta Little House, no arrest, no conviction. She goes, yet. You never know. She says, yes, I always just say, I haven't done it yet. And you don't know. You do not know what the future is going to bring. If someone had told me that 50 years after Little House, me and the whole cast would be touring the country and doing all these events, and I'd be doing shows, and I would have a New York Times bestseller, I would have never believed that back then. Look at all the things that I've been able to accomplish or happen. There's always something coming down the road, and you don't know what it is. So I said, do not give up hope, and absolutely get out there. Just talk to